Security agencies in Nigeria say they would not condone anarchy in the guise of a nationwide protest. The agencies say intelligence reports show that the reasons are political and is capable of destabilizing the nation. Arise News correspondent Ferdinand Duroha reports.
It is less than 1 week before the planned nationwide protest fixed for August 1, 2024. While some citizens have vowed to exercise their constitutional rights to show their grievances over increased hardship in the country through protest, security agencies are warning citizens to be cautious. The Department of State Services says it has uncovered the sponsors and funders of the protest, even as it claims that the protest is politically motivated. Similarly, the Nigeria police have appealed to the organizers of the planned protest to shelve the idea, as it might be hijacked by miscreants, bandits and kidnappers, thereby thwarting the original intention of the protesters.
We will remain committed to providing protection for those who engage in peaceful protest. That I made very clear in my address. If the protest is peaceful, you will see us protecting the protesters for as long as they remain peaceful. But we have a duty to protect lives and property. So we will not sit back and watch hoodlums burning down our facilities in the name of protest. That we will not condone.
Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters says the Nigerian military will not be bystanders while the nation is torn apart. Addressing the media during its bi-weekly briefing on operational activities of the armed forces, the Director, Defense Media Operations, says it will not condone anarchy in the guise of a nationwide protest.
Already, we have detected some unscrupulous elements bent on hijacking the planned protest with the aim of making it violent. Many are therefore following in ignorance. For instance, other targets that have been labeled include places of worship, businesses, markets, ethnic groups, and members of other political parties, among other items and areas targeted. Accordingly, the level of violence being envisaged can only be described as a state of anarchy. The armed forces on its part will not stand by and allow anarchy to befall our nation.
The military cited the protest in Kenya, which turned violent and led to the death of several persons. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
Well, despite repeated appeals from the government and a growing number of stakeholders across Nigeria, the prospect of a nationwide anti-hunger protest continues to assume larger-than-life dimensions. Joining us now to consider how the basic rights of Nigerians can be protected in a protest scenario are two gentlemen, human rights lawyer Effiong and Dr. Effiong Osajie. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us. Now, Effiong, I'm going to start with you. This protest says end bad governance. So my first question is this. Do you believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is governing Nigeria badly?
Well, I don't know if you actually want me to respond or it is just a rhetorical question.
Oh, I want you to respond.
Because Tinubu himself knows that he's governing the country badly, in fact, terribly. I will not be surprised if you conduct a census in the president's family, 90% will agree that he had misgoverned the country. We have a situation where we were told that here is a master strategist, a man who had said it was his turn, a man who had told Nigerians that he was going to hit the ground running, a man who had made promises that immediately he assumes office, he will change the fate of the country for the better. What did we see? Immediately he came in, he started by appointing an embarrassing cabinet of about 49 ministers, unprecedented in the history of this country, and he did not knowing the economic situation of the country. And the individual that he appointed, the man we were told was good at finding talents, were not people that are very inspiring, were not people that are really charismatic. And that is why we see the economy, we see the country being governed the way it is. So, is the president governing the country badly? The answer is yes. Is it in terms of the educational sector? What have they really done? The economy, everybody agrees that the economy is terrible. Security, people are being killed. Institutional reforms, I haven't seen any indication that this president has interest in reforming our institutions, save for certain symbolic measures like local government reform and so on that we have seen. Other than that, I don't really see anything that we can credit this president for in the last 1 year. So, really, Nigerians have a legitimate reason to protest, and I think it will be unfair to say that people are just trying to protest for the fun of it. The president himself, as I said, knows that things are bad, and if he doesn't know, then he's living in an alternate universe, and that would be really regrettable.
All right. I guess I'll ask Dr. Osajie this question. Since you're speaking on security, I believe that we've read reports that 6 billion naira has been released for, protecting through the police and security agencies. We've also heard that, 4,200 police officers have been deployed for this whole process. I'd love your thoughts in terms of security. What would you advise the federal government to do at this point? I know that DSS said that they have identified the people that are behind the planned protest and they don't want to make an arrest. But there's also a letter that has come up from a group known as Take It Back Movement, who say that they are part of the organizers of the planned protest. They say that they wish to gather at the Eagle Square and also wish to visit the presidential villa during the period, which they say also might even go beyond the 10th of August. They've written to the FCT minister. I've seen that letter. It's been circulating on social media. Nyesom Wike has said that, he has not received any letter. But he has also been quoted as saying that the FCT is not available for protest because the same day is being fixed to celebrate some traditional rulers in the FCT. I'd like for you to unpack all of these.
That's the question. Thank you for having me. You see, sometimes if we want to get this right, we need to learn from the previous activities or what went wrong in the last NSAS protest. I think that is where we should be drawing our narratives from and ascertaining what the security agents should be doing. I've listened to the brief from the defense headquarters and from other police formation, and I am not impressed with those briefs because carrying out protest is a constitutional right, but we need to also understand that we have the good and bad protest. A good protest are protests that are lawful, are going by the rules of engagement. A bad protests are protests that are violent, for example, blocking the roads, not allowing Nigerians to move around freely without being intimidated is under the classification of bad protest. So now, what we need to be looking at is that the police have rightly deployed, said they were going to deploy 4,000 plus troops. Now, the question I'll be asking is, it's not just all about deploying police officers, to mitigate any perceived or forthcoming threats. Do they have the requisite training? Are they trained on crowd control management? Because we must also know that the use of force must be seen as the last resort, which brings me back to the incident of the NSAS that was not properly managed by the Nigerian government. So if we must get this right this time around, the military, the police must take a departure in the area of threatening the Nigerian people or telling them not to carry out this protest. Allow them to express themselves, allow them to carry out this protest peacefully, quote and unquote. But anything that has to do with bad protest or violent protest, I will not advise the Nigerian people to go into that.
All right. right, then I would like to bring it back to you, Inibehe, talking about the potential risks and mitigation. Let's speak about the constitutional provisions regarding the right to peaceful protest in Nigeria, on the backdrop of critics arguing that it could spiral into violence and cause more suffering. What are the legal protections in place for Nigerians? We just heard Dr. Osajie, of course, making reference to the NSAS protest that happened in 2020 and how that spiraled into anarchy and chaos. Do you trust that the law enforcement agencies in being able to maintain public order while respecting the rights of Nigerian citizens to protest?
I think I should even say that I'm surprised that this one has said that 6 billion is being budgeted to manage the protests. It shows that the government, this country has money, really. Is this, are some people seeing this as an owambe? What are they budgeting 6 billion for? But regarding your question, the Constitution is very clear, Section 39, that Nigerians have the right to freedom of expression. Section 40 guarantees the constitutional right to association and peaceful assembly. This right is not absolute, because under Section 45, there are derogations to this right. For example, for the protection of public order, peace and safety, and so on, the right to assemble may be curtailed where there is violence or riot. My concern is that the government is the one that is fueling the perception that this protest is going to be violent. I'm very active on social media. I haven't seen any indication that any person or group of persons are planning to unleash anarchy in the country. And let us even ask the question, how come that it is only when people are protesting against government or people want to carry out rallies against government that people will suddenly create this imaginary intelligence report that hoodlums, miscreants are going to unleash violence? We saw Asari Dokubo leading protests in support of Tinubu during the tribunal. Asari Dokubo, the SSS did not gather any intelligence that hoodlums will hijack it. As a matter of fact, I have also seen groups planning to hold counter rallies and protests in support of the government. The police have not said anything about it. So this impression that some people are planning to burn the country is just fiction. They keep making reference to NSAS, and I choose to characterize it as fraudulent historians. It is fraudulent history to say that the NSAS protest was a violent and anarchy. The truth of the matter is that the crisis we saw, the violence we saw during the NSAS, took place after Nigerians were killed. That was what triggered the violence. Even Kenya that they are talking about, until the police opened fire on protesters at the parliament in Kenya, the protest was entirely peaceful. So the question is, are they planning to unleash mayhem on the country? Are they planning to kill Nigerians to instigate violence? That should not be the approach. If the government is serious, they should understand that people have the right to protest and stop giving us fake intelligence. The IG says he wants the name of the protesters, he wants to know the routes, he wants to know the founders. The SSS, on the other hand, says no, we know those who are sponsoring it. So which one should we go for? This clearly shows that they are not serious. You cannot in one breath say, you know that foreign mercenaries are the one planning the protest, you have uncovered those behind it. At the same time, you are still asking for the identities of those who are behind the protest. Let the Inspector General of Police, let the SSS and the army, surprisingly, is issuing a statement on a protest. We are not in a military dictatorship. What is the business of the military issuing a statement on the matter? That can't even be tolerated in a democracy. Let the military remain in the barracks. The police should deploy, in line with the provisions of the Police Act, should deploy police to ensure that those who are protesting are protected. Because the court have even made pronouncement on this matter. Let us assume for a second that they actually have real intelligence, which I believe they don't have. That they have real intelligence that this protest can turn to violence. The court have ruled that the police cannot stop protests because of apprehension of violence. That the proper way to approach it is to ensure that those who are planning the violence are protected and the protesters are also protected. So let them stop creating this apprehension, this nightmare that the country is going to burn. Nobody is planning to burn the country. People are tired, people are hungry, people are desperate for solutions. The government is not providing solutions. And why does the president have to wait till the 1st of August? He can start this moment. Start this moment to effect the changes that people are asking for. Reduce the number of ministers, right? Cut the cost of governance. Tell Nigerians they are not going to purchase a new presidential jet with 150 billion. Tell us you have abolished the office of the first lady and the office of the first daughter and the first son, because we now have office of first lady, office of first son, office of first daughter. Can you imagine Folashade Tinubu making a statement yesterday threatening Nigerians not to protest, and you are telling people that you are running a democratic country? Begin to show us that you are serious. Send a bill to the National Assembly before the 1st of August. Make IREV a legal requirement in our election. These are things that people are asking for. You can do this thing before the 1st of August, but they are not doing that. Begin the fight against corruption. You are not fighting corruption. You are telling people not to protest. You are not changing the country. You are telling people not to protest. You are buying, you are investing billions, about 22 billion, to build a new residence for the vice president. You are planning to build 5 billion to presidential yacht, and you are saying Nigeria should not protest. Even the agbado that Tinubu promised Nigerians, people cannot buy anymore. You are talking about minimum wage of 70,000 that cannot buy a bag of rice. Nigerians have to protest. That cassava and agbado that he promised us, he should provide it. Nigerians don't have what to eat. And you are telling people not to protest. Right. What is the alternative? All these fake bishops, fake student leaders that they are using to tell people not to protest, people are not listening to them. People are not going to listen to them.
Okay, Inebe, 2 questions from me, and it's those are questions that I would like you to start with, and then Dr. Osajie can also, also a comment. The first will be your thoughts on the processes and the targets of a protest like this one that has been proposed to start on the 1st of August. At what point, in your opinion, do you think that a protest will become meaningful? And I'm saying this on the assumption that it will be allowed to happen, and that it will not be violent. At what point will a protest achieve its aim before, say, for example, soldiers or police are sent out, to stop it, like we had during Occupy Nigeria, if you recall, in 2012, or during NSAS, when a stay-at-home order was given by the Lagos State Governor. And then the second part will be that, yes, you alluded to it yourself, that no right is absolute. So when protesters go on with their protest, but then block the roads, denying other citizens allowance to move about freely for their job, at what point would other citizens say, no, you are not allowed to do this? And what are the options before police or the military step in? What are the options for the citizens who may not agree with protests but want to go about their lawful undertakings? What options will be available to them to say, no, you can't continue with this. You can't stop me from moving to my office or from moving about. Inebe first, and then Dr. Osajie can comment. Regarding
your first question, I think the protest will be productive, will be seen to have yielded results depending on, whether the president is serious or not. My happiness is that Tinubu doesn't have ear problems like the former president. So I'm hoping that he will listen to what people are saying. When Nigerians are coming out on the 1st of August, I expect, and I have made the point, we don't have to wait till the 1st of August. If the president is serious, he can begin to address the concerns of the protesters. People don't just want to protest for the fun of it. So once Nigerians are seeing that their demands are being attended to, because the protest is scheduled to take place for 10 days. I don't know whether it will last for that duration, but I expect the government, right, to begin to attend to their demands. And once those demands are attended to, those who want to protest will naturally withdraw. Regarding your second question, it is very simple. Even under a state of war, like we have in Russia and Ukraine currently, we have what we call international humanitarian law. So even when a country is in a state of war, that does not give justification to apply maximum force. The principle of proportionality has to be applicable. So let us assume in the worst case scenario that, because really you can't have a protest without inconvenience. Some people will be inconvenient. There is no argument about it. Tinubu himself has protested and he inconvenienced people. So you cannot say that.
How did he inconvenience people?
Of course, the lead protest cannot take place in the bush. Protest has to be in a public place, except you are telling Nigerians to go to Sambisa Forest and protest. right? Protests will necessarily inconvenience people, but
Alongside
that doesn't make it
alongside
violent.
Doing NSAS didn't necessarily inconvenient people, but Lekki Tollgate did, because you block the road, for those who are commuting.
Yes, I'm saying that the question is about management, right? I'm saying that in the worst case scenario, I'm not preempting violence. I don't see that any violence taking place. But in the worst case scenario, tear gas is there, water cannon is there. That is assuming that riot takes place. And I know riot is not going to take place because I've not seen anybody plan for riot. But what we must not tolerate is opening fire and killing people. Because historically, this is what always results to violence.
Okay, so
and I don't want that to take place. That is why we are warning ahead of time.
Yeah, can we just move go to Dr. Osajie for a bit if he doesn't mind answering Mr. Steve's question as well.
Yeah, fantastic question from your colleague out there. You see, sometimes we fail to understand that we have a country that we need to build, and having a country that we need to build has to be a collective. Nigeria has suffered for so long from police brutality, ethnocentric brutality, religious brutality, political brutality. And we need to ask ourselves, why now? Why is it that our people are coming out to protest? The whole essence they are coming out to protest, they term it as end bad government. You see, how do we end bad government? Because if you look at that notion, the word end bad government, what application do you want to use to end this bad government? I understand they want to protest. And okay, if you want to protest, what are the methodology in place for you to carry out this protest? You see, most people think the last protest, the NSAS protest, was a peaceful protest. I agree, it was peaceful by intent, but the action was violent, because when you start blocking roads, stopping people from moving around, going about their various businesses, you are violent in nature, and that could also escalate. So let's not have that this time around. If we have people who want to go out for protest, their parents, mothers, fathers out there should tell them what and what not to do. And that is what I'm going to talk about, crowd formation. You see, Nigerians, we need to also understand the various crowd formation we have, the protest formation, the casual formation, the escape formation, the acquisitive formation, and the expressive crowd formation are very essential for us to understand. And for the security agents, like my colleague rightly said, do not pull the trigger at the slightest provocation. We have you being deployed out there. It's what we classify as stage one, because when you project security agents in any given situation, armed or armed, they are classified as stage one, use of force. Before you move to stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and stage 5, which has to deal with the pulling of trigger, we must apply caution, because what really escalated the NSAS was the shooting of Nigerians at the Lekki toll gate. So we must not allow that to happen. Then going by this present administration, like my colleague in the studio said, the leadership of this country have disappointed Nigerians for so long, and that is just the truth. Every day and now we have Nigerians crying, food stock expensive, fuel expensive, everything on the high spark, and you cannot tell a hungry man not to cry. What is happening? Nigerians want to cry. Allow them to cry. If you don't allow them to cry, they will cry next time. So let's not look at this systematic, persuasion. Let them come out and express themselves. If you don't allow them to express themselves, they will come in next year, or they will come back 2 years' time. Then you are not solving the problem. Allow them to come and express themselves, listen to their plight, put it into action, call for action, and call the leaders and say, hey, this is the plight of Nigerians. How do we resolve it? And let me warn, we should not have a systematic takeover of this protest, because I have also analyzed that sometimes we might want to, project some street urchins or some area boys, quote unquote, to go and disrupt this protest so that you'll be able to have a standing ground to discredit this protest. Let's not systematically take over this protest. Let's allow Nigerians to cry out. And when they cry out, listen. The ability for you to listen is all about governance. The ability for you to take action from the cry of Nigerians is all about governance. So let them speak, and let them speak out, and give them the coverage, police-wise, military-wise. Nobody should be intimidated. But for the protesters, carry out this protest by the rule of engagement. If need be, you want to go with this protest. But do not block public roads. Do not intimidate Nigerians, and also ensure that this protest does not inconvenience any persons. Once this, my colleague says, yes, protests do inconvenience. I agree. But let the intent not be an intention whereby you inconvenience Nigerians.
Thank you,
that
Dr.
would be a bad
Osajie.
protest.
Yes. Some people do argue that protests are inherently disruptive. They inherently disturb movement or peace and quiet. But that's one argument that some people have. Now, I want to bring this question back to Effiong, because you have spoken about the current President Tinubu's bloated cabinet, as some people call it. We have over 40 ministers, and you have said that Tinubu should fire some of those ministers. So I want to ask you, who's the top of your list that you'd like to see go from the Tinubu administration?
There are people I'm not sure are ministers. And I say that with all level of seriousness. There are ministries that I'm not sure if they are existing or not. The Attorney General, for example, has done some things. I think you can give it to him. We've seen some measures from the Ministry of Justice. The Minister of Budget, for example, Finance, given how bad the economy is, why is he still in office?
So why? The Minister for Budget and Planning or the Minister for Finance?
Both of them, they have mismanaged the economy. Why are they still in office? The Minister of Youth, I'm not even aware who the person is. Nigerians don't know these individuals because they have clearly underperformed, right? We even have Minister of Blue Economy. I don't know when they are going to establish red economy. I know what blue economy is, but I'm just saying that we have not seen the outcome. We've not seen anything that they've delivered. And why do you need over 40 ministers? The president has between now and the 1st of August to show that he means well. Reduce it to at least 30. People will know that you are serious. People will know that you are committed. Why do we still have the GMD of the NNPC Yari still in office?
The Constitution,
there are so many people that should be fired.
But you know the Constitution says that each state must produce a minister.
Well, 36 at a minimum.
Exactly. So
36 at a minimum.
Just to clarify, yes.
Yes, 36 at a minimum.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that why do you have the GMD of NNPC still in office? Why is the president look at the scandal. Look at listen to what Dangote said. Why are they still in office? There are people that should have been fired long ago. But this president has kept them in office. Look at the number of aides issuing conflicting statements. Today, Bayo Denuga is saying this. Tomorrow, another person is saying this. The government is clearly overbloated. And that shows that the president is not prioritizing cutting cost of governance. And that is one of the things, because they keep asking who are the sponsors of the protest. It is Hunger. Hunger is the major sponsor of the protest. West in government is a major sponsor of the protest. Corruption is the leading sponsor of this protest. Till today, EFCC cannot find Yaya Bello. And you want people to listen to you? Under a government that wants to fight corruption? Right. Of course, they did not campaign on corruption, but corruption is a problem. It's a problem. So I'm saying that the president can take actions that don't even require legislation between now and 1st of August. And you'll be surprised that people may even decide not to go out. But for whatever it is, this government has a responsibility to ensure that this protest is peaceful. One of the suggestions I'm going to make, for example, in Abuja, people want to gather at the Eagle Square. Allow them to go there. It's not only when APC and PDP are having their rallies and campaigns and primaries and throwing dollar that Eagle Square should be open. It is a public facility. Allow people to gather there. Wike has no business because they keep asking who is sponsoring the protest. Wike is sponsoring the protest by coming out to say that people will not protest. You are instigating people to come out. How can Wike say Nigerians cannot protest in Abuja? Well, is it a family inheritance?
Effiong, I mean, this is your allegation about Wike sponsoring the protest. We have no proof with that. But, you know, you asked the question, who is the Minister of Youth? And I'll tell you, her name is Dr. Jamila Ibrahim, and she has asked the youth to shun the protest. Just a little information there. But, you know, earlier you said that the government is the one fueling the protest, like you've just said as well, you know, accusing Wike, saying that, you know, the process will be hijacked. But the United Nations Department of Safety and Security have also expressed worries that the protest could be hijacked by groups with ulterior motives. But I would like for us in Effiong to talk about why the youths want to go out to protest. They say it is to end bad governance because governance has failed. I mean, but also since the protests were announced, the government has initiated measures, including rice distribution, and raising the minimum wage to 70,000 naira. Tinubu has also promised to run an all-inclusive government and also pay stipends to unemployed graduates. I mean, all of these are in a bid to pacify public content. Are you saying that these measures are not encouraging at all?
Those are just tokenism, mediocrity. All those things you've highlighted, apart from the minimum wage that the Labour agreed to, that is what they have agreed, which I don't even believe 70,000 is sufficient, but The NLC and TUC are fine with it, so who am I to complain? But all this talk about sharing money, rice, it is just a ridicule. They are just ridiculing themselves. In the first, I have not seen anybody who has even collected this right that they are sharing. That is not going to solve anything. I have mentioned things that this president can do. When people say they want an end to bad governance, let Tinubu wake up tomorrow and say, out of the vehicles in my convoy, I'm going to reduce it by 50%. By 50%. How can you be spending this kind of money? And you are telling us there is no resources to run the country? The jobs are not being created. Look at inflation, right? Cost of basic goods are going up. The president can take, look at today. As I was coming to the studio, the roads in Lagos are almost blocked. There is no fuel in Lagos. You claim you have removed subsidy. We are now hearing you are still spending billions on subsidy, and we still cannot even find petrol to buy. Clearly, people have justifiable reasons to protest. And the government should take it seriously.
All right. Dr. Dixon, I'd like for you to briefly answer that question, but I also want you to talk about, opposition leaders who we've heard from. We've heard from Atiku Abubakar, who has thrown his support behind the protest, saying that, the protests were constitutional. We've also heard from Peter Obi, who has threatened to sue Bayo Ononuga for accusing him of being one of the brains behind the protest. What are your thoughts, briefly?
So good. I think most of our government officials are talking too much. Talking too much sometimes, provokes the people. And that is why, like the statement from the Minister of FCT, that Nigerians should not come out and protest. I see that as a societal threat. You don't dish out such statements as a lone person, thinking you have the power of autonomy to stop the people from their constitutional rights. Now, talking about the reason why Nigerians want to come up, Nigerians are coming out to protest, I think we've suffered from leadership brutality for so long. Nigerians have been brutalized for so long, and we need to stop the bleed. Nigerian has been bleeding for so long. From the east, west, south, and north, we are bleeding. We need to stop the bleed. What is the problem? Leadership-wise, I think the major problem we're suffering from this country, in exception of the multi-dimensional security threat bedeviling Nigerian, leadership brutality is one of the major threats we're facing in this country. Corruption, embezzlement. My colleague in the studio rightly talked about someone like Yahya Bello who the EFCs have not been able to arrest. Some people might think that maybe they're giving him a soft landing. This is not what we expect. When we talk about security, security is in totality. The freedom from movement, the freedom from danger, and every one of us needs to live without being intimidated or being coerced. Now, coming back to this protest of a thing, if you look at what happened after the end of World War II, the United Kingdom was in a state of total mess. And the state government came out with a policy. And they appointed a man, Sir Beveridge, to come out with a social welfare policy. And that policy till today is still leading and directing the country called United Kingdom, and is working very well. What I would advise the federal government to do is that listen to the plight of these people and establish some panel, or bring in some people on board, to roll out some policies that will address this issue or this would-be protest, these issues of this would-be protest, so that we'll be able to resolve this problem bedeviling our dear country and take Nigerian to our glorious life. Because we can't continue to live like this every day, and now bad news, Nigerian being killed every day, security agent being killed every day, nothing is working. So we must get it right, and if this protest must hold, the Nigerian government must listen. Then talking about the opposition, I don't think they can do anything better because, what we believe is that our opposition here is that in Nigeria is that they want to just talk bad about the sitting government, or the past opposition want to talk about the sitting government. We're not doing anything good about the opposition. The opposition should not, give any brief or give any...
Thank you, Dr. Osajie. Yes.
All right. Well, perfect. Thank you very much. I just wanted to raise the... part about the opposition leaders, because the DSS has said that they have seen that this whole protest is politically motivated. Well, thank you very much for your answer there.
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Osajie, and thank you, Inebehe, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show. Your insights were very enlightening, as usual.